Okay, so I'm going to try to make this quick because I keep getting interrupted, and this is like the 5th take. Hopefully I don't get interrupted again. So, this is going to be on how to decontaminate a surface. It can be a painted surface, it can be clear coated, can be polished, can be chrome, doesn't matter. This is how you can decontaminate. There's one step beyond this, most people don't know about. I'll go into that later, but this is something that anybody and everybody can do without causing a lot of damage or anything like that to a surface. So, claying the surface. This has already been washed, soap and water, it's been dried off. At this point I know it's clean to the touch, but it still may have a texture to it, or it might feel rough to the touch. Most generally I don't rub with the palm of my hand because there's calluses there. It's not as sensitive. Use the back side of your hand. If it's going to be on the facing of it, or if it's going to be on a painted surface, you're going to be able to feel it a lot better with the back of your hand as to whether it's a smooth surface or it feels like it's gritty or has a texture to it. In this case, if it were this wheel, it's clean, not going to have a problem. Anybody else's car, you're probably going to have some texture to it. We'll just say that. So, but to clay a car, you're going to have this piece of clay. It's pure, it's clean. Usually starts out in this form as a brick. And what I do is I tear off a piece of it because I don't need to use this whole entire thing to clay a surface. It's excessive and it's a waste at that point. So tear off a portion, just small, and this is about a silver dollar size, and knead it out so that it's fairly flat. Spray down your surface with a spray detailer, Mist and Shine quick detailer. Meguiar's also has their own brand, Mother's has their own. There's several different brands out there. Doesn't matter which one you use, they all work the same, they all perform the same. I'm using it strictly as a lubricant so that I can use the clay to glide across it. If I didn't spray it down, this would not move. It would stick to a surface, and I don't want that because it's doing nothing for me at that point. Spray the surface down, and then the clay can glide. So I'll spray down. Doesn't matter how much you apply because you're strictly using it as a lubricant. So if one point of this gets dried out, just apply more and continue. So on this particular wheel, there's different styles to them. Everybody has their own unique style. This has a fairly deep lip. It's a 45 millimeter offset, so it sticks out some. So I tend to do that portion first, and then I'll work to the inside curve of these spokes, and then to the facing of the spoke. So at this point, I'll start with the wood. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, and since it's a lubricated surface, I take the clay and I glide it across here. On most wheels that haven't been cleaned or haven't been clayed ever before, you're going to feel the clay wanting to grab and pull and not be so smooth as it goes across the wheel. It's not going to glide at first, but the continuous motion of it, as you rub it across there, the clay is collecting dirt and contaminants into this. I usually want to stick with a small surface depending on how gritty it feels or how much clinging the clay has to it compared to it gliding across the surface. If it still feels rough or wants to drag across it, I'll stop, I'll take a look at my clay, see how much dirt or contaminants are actually stuck in it. If there's a lot, I'll take that clay and I'll fold it over, I'll knead it. And the more that you knead it and fold it over in half and half and half, it becomes all clean again. Because what happened was all those contaminants were pushed into the middle of it now. So now it's clean on the outside on both sides, and I have a safe piece of clay to be able to use and continue doing another surface with. So I did this bottom portion, just drag a little bit up here, spray just a little bit more on there, and I'll continue claying. And I'll just continue doing this until this clay glides perfectly across here. You can rub your finger across. The only problem is, since this is wet, and if you were to take your hand and actually rub it across there, you're not going to be able to tell so much that if it is a smooth, slick surface, because obviously you have a lubricant that's making it slick. So I'll take a clean microfiber, and I'll take that, and I'll wipe off that surface. At this point, I'm just wiping it off so that I can inspect it and see if it is a smooth surface or if to the touch it feels like there's something still stuck in it. At this point, it is smooth as glass, if not more. So at that point, this section has been fully decontaminated to the extent for most people. For me, there's a step beyond that, but I'm not going to do it right now. It doesn't need it anyways. So at this point, this is as smooth as glass. Up here, not so much. So what I'll do, spray it, take the clay, make sure that you're working with the clean section of it, and I'll take that and I'll continue rubbing it across that surface, stopping to check and see if it has any contaminant. Oh, see, I might have just rubbed the corner of the tire, so therefore I have dirt on this. I don't want to take that across a portion that could be harmed if there was actually large chunks of dirt in there. If there were and I didn't inspect this, I would be taking that clay and then just scratching that surface of whether it was a wheel, painted facing, or even the paint of your car. So I take it, I knead the clay, might take 2 or 3 kneads till you have a clean surface again, and you can continue. This is literally claying a surface. What I'm doing is I'm taking that pure piece of clay and I'm pulling the dirt and debris out. That way, if, say I was working on a painted surface, once it's clayed, I am now ready to be able to buff, polish, do paint correction at that point, because if I were not to clay the surface and it had contaminants in it, and I were to take a buffer or even try to do it by hand and buff or polish out a finish, even applying wax to this and removing it, it may have a piece of contaminant, a large piece of dirt stuck to this panel, and I take this microfiber and I'm going to be buffing wax off or applying something or trying to polish by hand, and that dirt breaks loose. It's now stuck in this and I don't realize it, and I keep raking this across, because that's literally what I'm doing, is I'm taking that piece of dirt and I'm raking it through the finish, whether it's the wheel, the facing of it, the lip of this rim, or the painted surface. Now I'm causing damage, causing harm, and imperfections in the paint or in the wheel, lip, polished surface. Those are things that I have to correct every day, because people don't understand, or they don't pay attention, or they just don't have the knowledge or know-how as to how to correctly do it. So that's what I'm trying to do here, is explain to you why claying, decontaminating the surface before you do any kind of correction, before you start applying waxes, sealants, any coatings if you were to actually venture that far into it. But claying is a vital thing. If you don't do it and you start applying things on a surface, for one, you're probably going to be scratching and marring the surface, because you're going to be pushing those contaminants across the panel. And then upon that, you're sealing things in. You don't want to do that. And the longer the contaminants are in here, the more frictions, the more things blow across, the wind pushes it, the rain clings to that dirt surface now and starts pulling up. Problems with that the longer it stays in there, the more etched into the surface, whether it's painted or clear or whatnot, it's going to dig itself further and further and further. The longer it's in there, especially being on a rim, you have all this brake dust that comes off every time you use your brakes. Where's that going to go? It's going to go on your wheel. With brake dust, they're iron filings, also known as rail dust, that embeds in paint. Those filings are going to embed in there. What happens is, once they're embedded, the more moisture you have contacting them, the more water that hits it, it's going to continue to grow and grow and grow and become larger. Well, it might not have been so noticeable when it first contacted the surface, but over a week, a month, maybe even a year, usually it's only a couple months, depending on whether the car's garaged, how often it's driven, if it's in a damp area, if it's outside all the time. Depends on how much that iron filing is going to grow and be noticeable, but it's always going to be there. So claying is going to remove that. With that being said, I'm tired. It's about 10 o'clock right now. I'm hungry. I hope you learned something from this. If you have questions, If you want this to be more informative, just let me know. I'll try to do better next time. This is the second take and I've been interrupted multiple times, but claying is your number one step. Even before you want to wax, you want to clay. Because if you wax over top of something that's dirty, you're just sealing it in and you're causing probably imperfections as you're trying to buff wax off of it. So claying is number one, whether you're wanting to compound, buff, polish, seal the paint. This makes sure that your car is 100% clean, whereas you're not going to apply something and seal in dirt that's only going to cause more damage later on down the road. This is why we preserve the paint. I want this to be your car, and I want you to be able to drive it and have it for years. Say you're going to keep it and you want it to stay in pristine condition. This is how you're going to keep it that way, is you're going to clay it to make sure that the dirt and contaminants stay out of your paint. And once you're done with that, then you can seal it. You can top it off with your favorite wax, your cheap wax, or if you want to buy a high-end, a specialty item, you can use that on here and know that it's actually going to seal and do what you want it to do, compared to just slapping something on over top of all the dirt and debris. It's not helping you. It's actually harming you in this case, because you're going to make 10 times more work out of it. You apply the wax over top of all these contaminants. It bonded over top of those contaminants. When you go to clay that, it's going to make it harder to remove that. So that's why we clay, buff and polish if need be, and then seal it with a wax, synthetic or carnauba. I prefer synthetic because it lasts longer. I'll tell you that in another episode. So there you go. In for the night, and hopefully this helps you. If you need any more questions answered, just ask and I'm here for you. Have a nice night.